The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WDenaRadio.com.
It is the Morning Sports Desk on a Thursday, the 10th of September. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Corey Tackman joining me. Corey, you are going to be doing some Park Region Conference volleyball tonight. Why don't you just let the good folks know what's on the broadcast schedule?
Park Region Conference Volleyball on 101.7 FM and AM 920 KWAD and online at WDenaRadio.com/KWAD. Wadena Deer Creek at Verndale, as CJ would like to say, a Highway 10 rivalry. And Verndale, the host school in this one, we'll start with them. Struggle bus for the Verndale Pirates this year in their volleyball season, 1-14 overall. They're just 1-7 in section play, and that becomes relevant with how many matches are left in the regular season, and still looking for their first conference victory of the season. Their lone win came back on September 14th over Hill City Northland in the Crosby Ironton tournament. So just a tough road for the Verndale Pirates this year. They're in section 5A. On the east side of things, Swanville is the top team in that subsection. In the west subsection, Sebeka is the top team. Then Browerville, Eagle Valley 2, Nevis 3, Bertha Hewitt 4, Walker Hackensack Akeley 5, LaPorte 6, Verndale 7, Long Prairie Gray Eagle 8, and Cass Lake Bena is 9th in that subsection. Verndale, as mentioned, 1-14 overall, 1-7 in section play. Their QRF value at 36.4. And they're just very comfortably in that 7 spot in the subsection. LaPorte in front of them at a 46.3 QRF value. Long Prairie Gray Eagle behind them at a 33.9. So that is, it's just comfortable, like I said. Left in the regular season after tonight, a game on Monday against Browerville Eagle Valley, Tuesday against Monaga, and then Thursday the 17th at Underwood for season-ending tournaments. So there are just, if you include tonight, the 4 dates left in the regular season for the Verndale Pirates. Wadena Deer Creek 14-7 overall. They're 7-1 in Section 8 AA play and undefeated in Park Region Conference play. They, like Verndale, have 4 dates left on the calendar. Verndale tonight, they'll host New York Mills on Thursday. And then, forgive me, they only have 3 dates. They close out the season with that Moorhead tournament Friday, October 18th. Wolverines are in Section 8 AA. They're the 3 seed right now in that bracket. DGF number 1 at latest check. Holly number 2. Wadena Deer Creek 3, and then so on and so forth down the line. Wolverines 14-7, 7-1 in section play, QRF value of 117.6. WDC leads the Park Region Conference. They're the lone undefeated team in the PRC. Sebeka has 1 loss at 5-1. New York Mills has 1 loss, but they only have 4 conference wins so far. So a tight race there. Then Henning is 3-3. Bertha Hewitt and Pillager each 2-3. Monaga and Verndale looking for their first conference victories, 0-5. Scheduled 7 o'clock pregame. 7:15 first serve on 101.7 FM and AM 920 KWAD and WDenaRadio.com/KWAD.
Are the QRFs for volleyball, they're going to be released like a week from today, aren't they?
No, they wait till that Saturday now.
Saturday, but like pretty much everything is set in stone because they don't really factor in weekend tournaments.
No, they do. That's why they
I couldn't remember if they did or not.
Not, but that was before the QRF. So there were a lot of times where we would know on like Thursday. They'll oftentimes wait until now. The Saturday stuff is done.
Sure. Okay. All right.
Well, there's a pretty good general idea, right? There's not a lot of shuffling around. A lot of times we're talking about like they're pigtail matches. So are you an 8-9 seed? We just got to figure out who's going to host. Like maybe those are the teams that flip-flop around for that Monday anyway. But yeah, they do wait. That's the final seedings will take place on I guess probably the 20th.
Yeah, so it's coming, not too far away. we get talking playoffs, which will be fun once that officially rolls around. Again, you can check out the full broadcast schedule online at WDenaRadio.com or the Superstation K106 mobile app. All right, Corey, let's talk a little Pro Football Challenge because we do have some breaking news that we need to get to in terms of the Minnesota Twins. But first, let's talk a little Pro Football Challenge. Corey, what is the Pro Football Challenge?
Well, at this point, if you don't know, as we head into week 6 of the NFL season, Pro Football Challenge, Pick'em Challenge at WDenaRadio.com. You pick the winners of each game in the NFL every single week. You pick the most correct. You'll win a $20 gift card from the Liquor Depot in Staples. There's a grand prize drawing, obviously, as well at the end of the season, thanks to the Liquor Depot. But if you haven't played, sign up because you can still get the weekly stuff. Thursday night football tonight is San Francisco at Seattle. And the NFC West is wide open. I picked Seattle. The game it's Thursday night. It's in Seattle. San Francisco's injured. It's just it's just wide open. The NFC West feels like it's wide open right now. And Seattle is solid. Seattle is solid. So I get a little worried, like discounting Fred Warner or whatever that guy's name is, the linebacker for San Francisco, who is probably the defensive player of the year. He's unbelievable. But I think I went with Seattle in this one. Do you like that, or am I way off base?
I've thought about picking Seattle, but I'll pick the home team the last few times, and I've been wrong on my Tuesday night predictions. So I'm gonna say that this is going to be a San Francisco win because they had a bad loss last week. They blew a 10-point lead at home in the fourth quarter against the Cardinals. I'm going to say that they bounce back. They kind of sharpen up this week and they get past Seattle, but I'm not necessarily confident in that pick. Hey, where are the standings sitting at, by the way, Corey, for the Pro Football Challenge?
I don't know. Let me grab that here. Hold on.
I'm looking at our K106 team leaderboard right now, and we have a 3-way tie for third place between you, me, and the Liquor Depot.
Yeah.
Kyle putting along in last place. Mike Melanich, all of a sudden, our sales guy, at 46 points. Zeke on his own island there at 49 with a 5-game lead in our little pool.
It's outside of Zeke. We've had a lot of change from second place on down. It's been me, it's been Mike, it's been you, everybody's had a spot in second place and everybody's had a spot in third, in fourth, in fifth, in sixth. Zeke is pretty much the only one he's been just out front the whole time.
Right. So it'll be interesting.
Mark Johnson leads the way overall, and he's crushing everybody. He's won individually the last 2 weeks in a row. Mm-hmm. He's at 52 correct picks overall, a full 3 picks advantage over second place John, Paul, and Zeke with that 49. So Mark is running away with it. He actually messaged me the other day. He's like, I guess it better be lucky than good. But he's been lucky 2 weeks in a row. So is it luck anymore? Or is he just a brilliant mind? He's a beautiful mind, as they say.
Yeah, I'll give him to him. I mean, heck, you can't argue with results no matter what. So
get your picks done. WDenaRadio.com, the Pro Football Challenge, thanks to the Liquor Depot and Staples.
All right, Corey, there's 2 different Twins breaking news things that we need to talk about on the sports desk. One, let's just get the elephant out of the room, is the fact that the Minnesota Twins are up for sale. According to the Pohlad family this morning, according to KSTP, the Pohlad family, owners of the Minnesota Twins since 1984, have publicly announced they are open to selling the team. According to an announcement today, the family decided this past summer it would begin exploring a sale and chose now to make their decision public as, quote, the next phase of this process, unquote. Here's in a lengthy statement, here's just a little snippet of that. We truly respect and cherish the Minnesota Twins and what they mean to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the great state of Minnesota and this entire region, said Twins Executive Chair Joe Pohlad in a statement. Our goal is to be as informative as possible with the team, staff, and you, the fans. You deserve that because you, in so many ways, this team doesn't belong to any one family. It belongs to all of you. It's our objective to find an ownership group who all of us can be proud of and who will take care of the Minnesota Twins. Of course, developing story, more information to follow, all that good stuff. Corey, just gut reaction. Whoa, right? Like, I had no idea that this was in the works.
No idea. No, and they say it in their statement. They have been exploring this all summer, and it was just now time to come public with it. We had initial reactions in this building, and I think once you got beyond the what? Seriously? I think, was your first thought the same as my first thought of, did we just peer pressure the POHLADS into selling the Twins? Because they have spent the last 2 weeks being raked over the coals.
Right. And that was after a whole winter of being raked over the coals. Really, outside of that stretch from May to mid-August, that kind of died away. But as soon as things went south, everybody went, oh, yeah, that's right. Why did things go south? Ownership. Great. And it fell apart. And yeah, so there's a lot of stuff, boy, when everybody talked about, hey, firing the manager in the front office, it really doesn't make sense with ownership. And people go, too bad you can't fire ownership. Well, they're making the changes necessary to better the franchise. So it went from that to, we bullied the Twins into selling the team, bullied the POHLADS into selling the Twins. Here was my next thought. Now that that's cool. Those guys stunk. Get them out of here. Once I got past that, here's where I've had a couple thoughts, and it's just a bunch of different thoughts ping-ponging around in my head because this is still a very recent thing that's popped up.
Like, as we're recording this, that news, it's 11:22 right now. At 11 o'clock, it was when this information was put out.
Right. This is all like within the last hour. Stuff is breaking, and we're just kind of processing it as it goes. My first thought after that initial euphoria was, okay, is the devil you know better than the devil you don't know?
Oh, not in this case.
And essentially, because we've seen owners like John Fisher in Oakland. We've seen owners like Jerry Reinsdorf in the White Sox. We've seen some other owners across baseball who are this is not an endorsement of the POHLADS. It is to say, I know they were not a great ownership group in terms of the on-field product. There are other owners who are worse. And it just depends on if you get into that situation. My other thing is, this Twin, like, I've heard some people say it, and now that somebody said it on social media, it makes sense. This is if you viewed the POHLAD group cutting payroll by 30 million, like, it wasn't just the fact of right sizing the payroll. You know what every organization does right before they're about to sell? They cut spending like it's nobody's business. And they tighten everything up and put a bow on it and get it ready to send to market. That's what the Twins were doing. And it sucks that they did it. It sucks that the POHLADS did it after a 21-year playoff losing streak was ended, and after a playoff run was made and ticket sales were going to go up and all that kind of stuff. And then they just cut it off at the knees because they were getting ready to sell. And this, I think, gets to the crux of it. That TV deal, the RSN, the regional sports network, Fox Sports North, which became Bally, that market, that stream of income is gone. And the Twins we're going to talk about this after our ownership conversation, have officially moved to MLB.TV. MLB is going to produce Twins games this year under the MLB.TV umbrella. They'll be on a few TV channels, but largely you can just buy a flat rate and have them for the whole season and whatever. That is in the works because the regional sports networks were how teams like the Twins and how every Major League Baseball team made money. There is no, like in the NFL, it's all national games, so everybody splits the pie. In the NBA, their national TV deal is so great that they can split it up between everybody, and it doesn't matter what the Timberwolves or the Wild are making in their RSN deals because the national packages are so much better. Major League Baseball's national TV deal stinks. It's really bad, and they don't get any money from it. Teams really don't. What they get their money from is regional sports networks. That's why the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Red Sox have money, because they have a boatload of people who are viewing their product on their in-house. The Dodgers own their own TV network. The Red Sox have their own TV network. The Yankees have their own TV network. It's how they make their money, a large majority of it. The Twins model just broke. And I think this is the POHLADS going, our main source of revenue just dried up. It's time to bail. And it feels like that's kind of what has happened over this process.
All right, I'm going to address both of those points really quickly, and it's probably just a reiteration on the second point about the business side of it. And the part that we probably spent a lot of the early part of this week and last week complaining about with the Twins is one of the things the POHLADS always did is they based, it was a business decision always. That's it. It's the only thing they ever considered. And the thing about it that was always frustrating as a Twins fan is you knew they weren't lying to you because it was very like, we're making business decisions. This is we are not doing this as a business decision. We are lessening our salary cap. It's a business decision. We are not going to trade for anybody. We're not going to sign in.
Go back to Bally Sports and cut off access because it's a business decision.
They're business decisions. So I guess this is the final evidence that like, hey, they have always been true to their word as far as we are here to run the business. That is the Twins. This is another one of those things you can tack onto it. I do want to go back to the ownership thing, though. The devil you may know that you used. First of all, we can't be afraid of change because if we're afraid of change, then somebody that's when you get the POHLADS for 40 years, right? And then the ownership the owners that you used for examples of, because there are bad owners out there, right? You mentioned Reinsdorf. You mentioned what's his face who was in Baltimore.
John Fisher with the A's is what I said.
With the A's, sorry, that's right. Those guys suck and are old. And I hate to break it to Twins fans, but I don't think people around the league were speaking very highly of Twins ownership. You know what I mean? Do you think the Diamondback fans were like,
well, the Diamondbacks are another team with a bad owner who's openly bad-mouthing a player to get him to opt out of a contract.
Okay, but fine. But pick a different example.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like, no one around the league is like, gosh, I wish we had those Twins owners. The POHLADS were in that group.
They were in the bad.
That you would list like, gosh, if we could just get like, you don't need to be the Mets guy and just be like Scrooge McDuck diving into your vault of gold coins. But like, people who are buying sports franchises now are not 80-year-old curmudgeons who survived the Great Depression. That's not who's buying this stuff anymore. So it's probably optimistic because baseball is not what it used to be as far as a national
product.
But like, it's not going to be an 80-year-old doofus.
Well, and
go ahead. I'll let you finish your point, and then I have a question for you.
Well, because you're right. And to kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth here, there are examples of good ownership groups who have recently bought teams. And it was an old guy, Rothstein or whatever his name is, just bought the Baltimore Orioles from the Angelos family. And the Angelos family is a lot like the POHLADS, where this is a business. We treat this as a business. We're pinching pennies because this is a business. We need a right-size payroll and all this stuff. They sucked, and that fan base hated their ownership group. And they wanted to move the team out of Baltimore, and they were firing their teams. They're worse than the POHLADS, but only slightly. And they just got bought by this 80-year-old billionaire who immediately started doing fan promotional material, who immediately showed up on opening day to a fan watch party at a bar next to Camden Yards in Baltimore and said, hey, don't know if you know this, I'm going to be the new owner of the Baltimore Orioles. Next round's on me. Like buying everybody a beer, like doing all this stuff. And a lot of owners need to realize that all they have to do is just do a couple endearing acts like this to get a fan base to like you, or at the very least put up with you, to be like, yeah, that guy maybe doesn't spend money all the times I'd want them to, but you know what? They're out there and they're trying. And when the time is right, they'll do whatever. You look at the Padres ownership group, they cut back on spending because their owner died, who was willing to empty his own pocketbook. And the family takes over. They say, hey, let's just scale it back a little bit. Our dad wanted to win, but we're trying to make sure we're reasonable. And they were in a window to win, and they win at the deadline. And where the Twins ownership did not, because at the deadline, they're like, we're getting our product ready to sell, and we don't want to add extra revenue onto the team. Anyway, this is to say there are cases of good owners. And yeah, I mean, maybe A-Rod and L'Oreal drop their sale attempt to the Wolves and just pivot to the Twins. Who knows?
Okay, so I'm going to skip my question for now because you went to the joke that is very, very obvious that's out there. Wouldn't it be funny if this was either a Glenn Taylor buy or A-Rod Mark Lowry buy? Wouldn't that just be like, hey, we can't figure this out, but you know what? They share a freaking plaza, and A-Rod has been in on he's tried to get in on other professional baseball franchise buys before. These two definitely have enough money to buy a baseball organization. Would this, I think actually, I mean, an A-Rod Lowry baseball, I would have no issue with that for the Twins. I would be dreadfully sad if it was a Glenn Taylor thing. But it is funny that it does feel like it's out there, like it's an option, doesn't it?
Right. You want to talk about a move that the fan base is like, yes, get the Pohlhads out of here. Glenn Taylor's taking over. What? I don't know what I was expecting. And like, what am I supposed to feel? That guy. My guess is if he's getting out of the Wolves, he's probably just done owning a sports franchise at this point.
Very old. He's very old.
Extremely old. Like, he doesn't have, whatever. Like he's done with that aspect, would be my guess, but who knows? There's always somebody that pops out of the woodwork. The Wilfs, by the way, remember there was like a talk of them potentially buying the Timberwolves when they were for sale. Could like the Wilfs? Maybe. I'm just throwing that out there. That's pure.
Right. Hey, this is like when a Gopher job comes open, they list the best D2 coach in the state, and
they're like, and Tony Dungy, and
right, yeah. It's. I mean, you have to at least throw it out there, though.
Right. The Wolves did. There was some initial interest, so I don't know how far it really got, but I think it was basically like get a guy together and like put a portfolio, and is this attainable kind of a deal for the Wolves. And I wonder. I mean, the Twins are cheaper than the Wolves, I feel like. Well, especially now. But the Wolves, when at the time Taylor put them up for sale, were not in a good spot. There was a reason. He was trying to bail out because it was just a mess. And then Anthony Edwards kind of pulled everything up from the ashes. But for it'd be interesting if the Wolves were like, oh, let's add another pro baseball team onto here and whatever. The thing about any ownership group is it's not so much, I mean, ownership, the specific owner is important, but it's also the structures in place, right? The Wolves can spend a lot of money on the Vikings because there's a salary cap and there's a hard limit to how much they can spend. So like, sure, we can spend that much money. In baseball, there is not a salary cap, so you can always spend more money. There is no specific target. There's no specific cap. There's no tax. I mean, there is a luxury tax, but the Twins will never hit it. The NBA is kind of the same way, but there's only 12 guys on the team versus a 26-man roster and minor league players and all that stuff that trickles on down. The infrastructure, I think, will be interesting too, because if the ownership group like the Wilfs bought the Twins, I know they do a lot of investing in the Vikings and they do a lot of that stuff, but how much on a year-to-year basis would they necessarily, I'm not saying they'd launch the Twins in like top 3 in spending, but would they consistently make them like a 13th through 16th average payroll? I would say probably, but there's no guarantee in that.
Well, I think it's the Wilfs are a funny example in this because I think they're wonderful NFL owners in the sense that if they screw up who they hire, then there's a problem. But if they hire the right people, they trust that person. And if that person says to them, we need this amount of money to be able to do this, they just write the check. They don't meddle at all. And we've joked about it before, if they would have meddled even a little bit, maybe Mike Zimmer doesn't last as long.
Clean house a little earlier. Yeah.
Flame out quite like it did. But I would rather have that. I would rather have it get like they don't meddle. And then somebody says, we need a check. And they go, for what? And then they tell them why. And they go, well, I hired you to make those decisions. So here's your check. Like that would be an unbelievable option as whether it's the Wilfs or whoever as a sort of owner.
Well, and the NFL also has just a much cleaner, the NFL prints money every year. Like, and is going up. Like that thing is just a straight line upward. Whereas Major League Baseball, yeah, they do make money, but it's not at the exponential rate the NFL is. So of course they're okay spending money because they know that they're going to get money back no matter what on their investment in an NFL franchise versus a Major League Baseball franchise where the RSN model has collapsed. So that's going to be the interesting part because, I mean, the Twins with Cleveland, and we'll get into this TV deal in a second, but like the short argument is that MLB eventually wants to package all of the teams and sell them and get money that way and get a consistent, more baseline level of income for every team. And the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox will never agree to it. So that's not going to happen in the near term future. But for the teams like the Twins and all these other middle market teams, Major League Baseball wants to get 2/3 of the league together and sell it to somebody to try and do streaming and sell it as a big package rather than just individual teams doing individual decisions, whatever. That's its own thing. The point is the RSN model, I think, is so murky, and I think it's maybe would make a team, somebody wary of buying a sports franchise. But here's the other argument. I think this is the last one we need to touch on with ownership, Corey.
It isn't, because I have a question I still want to ask you.
Okay. Go for it.
No, make your point, and then I'll ask.
No, that's my last thing for the ownership that I need to mention is I don't think this will happen, but it always needs to be said with the new ownership group. Is this new owner whoever comes in, are they going to move the Twins? That's something that always needs to be on the mind. I don't think it is. The Twins have the 4th newest stadium in baseball. There is a history there. There is a fan base. Now, the fan base doesn't buy a lot of tickets, and you could blame ownership for that. You could blame other factors for that. But
move them where?
Nashville, Salt Lake City. There's a few different places that Nashville is the big burgeoning one that like wants to get a team and is like ready to get a team again. So that would be the one interesting thing.
Sure. And Nashville is the fair one, but like the market to get into was Vegas.
Right.
And they just got a team. They're, you know what I'm saying? Like there's been a very distinct thing in all of these leagues where like they're in all of the big important markets that they need to be. The NBA, I guess, is in Memphis. They're not in Nashville.
But they're in Tennessee.
So yeah, I get the Nashville thing, but like Nashville's not a better, a more important media market than Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Right, because I mean the Braves dominate the Deep South. So like even if you put a team in Nashville,
all Braves fans in Tennessee.
Right.
They're all Braves fans. So there's not and Braves fandom runs deep.
There's a reason why Bally wanted out of every single contract except the Braves one.
Correct. So there's just I understand the fear of that, but there's only a finite number of markets that are available, and baseball is in already 27 of the 30, right? Or they're in 27 of them because there's 2 teams in LA, there's 2 teams in Chicago, and there's 2 teams in New York. So that like they're inundated in where they need to be. Minneapolis, St. Paul is shockingly one of the weird ones is there's a market in the Bay Area now that would be that could be utilized, but the Twins geographically take up so much space. I just don't think this can go back to the early 2000s with the contraction talk, but like the redundant team in the Midwest is Milwaukee.
Yeah.
That's the redundant team because Chicago is, you can spit on it from Milwaukee. So that, but anyway, here's my question. The Vikings are worth, like if they were to go up for sale today, they'd sell for $5 billion, probably like $4 to $6 billion, probably somewhere in there.
According to Sportico, the Vikings are valued at $5.32 billion with a B.
That sounds like 4 to 6. I'm pretty good at this. So the Vikings are worth over $5 billion. What is this Twins deal going to be like? Are the Twins $1 billion franchise? Is this going to be like an $875 million? Like what's going to get sold for? According
to Sportico, the Twins are valued at $1.7 billion. According to Forbes, the Twins are evaluated at 1.46. So anywhere from 1.4 to 1.7, I think, is kind of that number that realistically would sit at. Now that's based on the Twins have the 4th newest ballpark in baseball. They just did a bunch of renovations to the stadium over the last couple years. The Baltimore Orioles just got sold. So there's like a bit of a, okay, well, this is how much your franchise is worth. Also, that team just sold. So we're going to evaluate that into how much your franchise is worth. So the Twins are going to, for an 80, it was the POHLADS purchased the Twins in 1984 for $44 million. And they're going to flip it for about $1.5 billion.
That number's a little higher than I expected. But the way sports franchises are selling, they're all being sold with a B.
Because here's the thing about sports, they're recession proof. They're always there. So it's so
good. They're going to be, someone's got to buy them for $1 billion.
Yeah. $1.5 billion.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's going to be fascinating to see what the Twins actually do go for and who buys them and what names pop up. There's always somebody that comes out of nowhere. There's always going to be a weird name that won't actually happen, but it'll be kind of fun to talk about. The Wolves had the Wilfs, and there were some other names that popped up with the Timberwolves. And it'll depend on, do the POHLADS take the highest dollar, or do they take somebody who's more interested in keeping the team in Minnesota or doing things kind of how they feel, whatever. Because the POHLADS, despite their flaws, do kind of view this as like a family investment. Like it's a legacy kind of thing. Do you want to be the guys that hand it off to a bunch of bad owners? Or is it, this guy's going to offer us $30 more million than the other guys, and forget what they said. Like, that guy's offering us a bigger check, because Glenn Taylor turned down higher offers to give Laurie and A-Rod the bid. Now that's a little cynical. It looks more cynical now, considering how he's kind of turning it around on them.
Did it so that way it'd be easier to pull the plug
and go, they couldn't pay me money.
Guy turns a corner here. I can just always pull the plug on the guy who
he gave himself a backdoor way to get back in.
Yeah.
So, shrewd business move, but
I mean, it's if we're gonna go back to the beginning of the conversation, the POHLADS have always made whatever's the best business decision for them, which kind of implies they're going to take the check and duck.
Right. And by the way, they've done this with multiple other businesses. They run a business into the ground, they bail, and then they sell. And that's what they're doing.
It's why they're rich. It's fine.
It's what they're
gonna do. We cannot begrudge them that.
Look, man, they got it. It felt like kind of the rebrand was one last chance to, like, hey, maybe let's see what we can do. It felt like putting the young buck in Joe Pohlad as the president, put a fresh face on it, was a way to do something. But I think in the end, I really think that it's just the regional sports network crumbling, and they're like, there's so much uncertainty with Major League Baseball. And this will tie into what we're talking about next, which is Twins.tv from the MLB.tv umbrella. But I think that market just dried up and is gone. And that was one of their biggest sources of revenue. And they're like, it's uncertain what it's going to look like and if it'll ever look at that same number again. And we're going to bail because we don't know if we really want to see it through. We're going to lose too much money on this franchise. And if we keep cutting payroll, the fan base is not going to show. Like, I think they just kind of decided over the summer that, like, things are going to get worse financially for the team before they get better. And that's outside of just the Minnesota Twins control. That's just a league-wide, worldwide cord cutting kind of thing, because the regional sports networks made so much money. So I think they're like, we don't want to see through this change, and we're just going to cash out.
So let's talk about the TV thing.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So the Twins announced earlier this week, kind of out of nowhere, and Major League Baseball just kind of did it out of nowhere. There's really no information other than the Twins, Guardians, and Brewers are all going to leave Bally, and they are going to be produced in-house by Major League Baseball. They're going to get about 100. It's going to be like a normal thing. Every national game, like on Fox or ESPN, is going to be covered by those guys. But pretty much every other game, which ends up being like 150 throughout the season, is going to be covered by MLB and Major League Baseball. MLB.tv is what it is. Now, MLB.tv has been a thing that's been around. NBA has it with the League Pass. NFL has some stuff where, Sunday Ticket, where MLB.tv was a way where if you paid a yearly subscription, you could watch any team, oddly enough, except for the one in your market because it was blacked out. But MLB.tv, if you wanted to watch any game across the country, you could. If you wanted to listen to the radio broadcast of your favorite team, you could. If you wanted to do that, and you still can. But now there's going to be an extra option where you can basically, I think it's going to be like $100 for the season. You get to watch 150 Twins games, which is less than $1 a game. to be able to watch the Minnesota Twins, and you can watch them on your phone. You can watch them online on the MLB.TV app, and it's blackout free, relatively speaking. The southern half of Iowa still gets cut out in this, which is hilarious, but they get to watch Twins games. Provis will be back. They said Morneau will be back. They can't confirm everybody else, but pretty much the same crew is just going to be produced under MLB. Now, they did this last year with the Diamondbacks and the Padres. They did broadcasts with MLB. It'll look a lot like an MLB Network game. The graphics packages will kind of look the same. It'll look like that, and it'll still be a lot of the same people putting the product together, and it'll be on streaming. And for people who have DirecTV, Comcast, and a couple others, there will be a cable channel dedicated to it. It'll be like Twins, and you just change it to a channel, and basically it'll have the MLB logo for about 20 hours of the day. And then when the Twins pregame show starts, it kicks on. And when the postgame show ends, back to the MLB logo, and it sits there until a game starts. And that's kind of what it's been like, and that's what it'll be like in the short term. Corey, just kind of what's your gut level reaction to just kind of the Twins moving? Because I think we're all in agreement that it's good to be done with Bally.
I mean, the burn it to the ground, right? Like that was always the line when it came to Bally. Get it out of my face. I'm done with it. So that part's really good. I'm not paying $100 to watch the Twins. I'm not doing it. So I know you said they're going to be on like the cable, like, are they going to be on YouTube TV? Are they going to be?
That part I don't know, but it's not a great sign that MLB Network itself is not on YouTube TV.
No, this is a thing. The getting rid of Bally was just the first step. The problem with Bally is that they weren't available. How do we make the Twins available? And the Twins are no more available today under MLB's ownership than they were under Bally's owner. They're no more available. I am not paying. I am already paying for television. I'm not paying $100 more. I understand it's less than $1 a game. They're not going to accept a check once a month for 36 cents. They're not, you know what I'm saying? That's not how this is going to work. I'm going to have to pay $100. I'm not paying for it. That's an extra $100 I now have to pay. I'm already paying for TV. Put them there. So good that Bally's out of the way. This has solved nothing for me, CJ.
And this is the first step, I think, because as we've talked about before, the Brewers, Guardians, and Twins are the only ones that are for sure. They're the only ones that they can legally announce. A bunch of teams like the Tigers and the Rangers and all these other teams across baseball that use Bally will join in too, but they're legally still trying to go through bankruptcy court with Bally, which has just been a mess. And the Twins contract was up, so they're not obligated to be under Bally. And I think Bally already dumped the Guardians and the Brewers. So I think this was like these are the teams that officially can sign on. More teams will come. And again, it's the first step to they're going to try and package. They want to package 2/3 of the league, basically everybody but the Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, to a national TV package some kind of way to get all the games on in that way. And this is kind of like they're in just kind of a holding pattern until that future comes. It's what's coming down the road, and it's not quite there yet. The RSN model hasn't completely fallen apart for the Yes Network and for SYN or SNY or whatever it is and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's coming and it's going to change. But yeah, in the short term, it's not exactly a perfect fix.
Well, there is no fix yet.
Right.
I saw a line the other day that said making suggestions is not problem solving.
Right.
It's a great line. Right now, all that's being done is they've made this. I mean, it's the first step towards solving the problem, but the problem isn't solved yet.
Right.
I understand I'm being selfish because but like, no offense, I don't care if you can watch it. I can't, and I want to, and I still can't. I couldn't yesterday. I couldn't the day before. I couldn't game 162. I couldn't game 3. I couldn't game 149 of the season before. I couldn't game 76 of the season before that. I couldn't game 3 of the season before that. I still can't watch the Twins. Make them so I can watch them. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And as somebody who has YouTube TV myself, I really hope they find an option to get it on YouTube TV.
I'm not doing it. I will not buy. I didn't get the Bally app. It drives me crazy. I don't have. I mean, I'll be interested to see how this works with the other sort of sports but right. I watch the Timberwolves. I can't watch the Wild. I can't watch the Twins. It's insane.
It's insane. More information will come out. It sounded like it blindsided everybody, because if you look at the Twins, they pretty much just put the MLB press release up. They really didn't have anything set up. It felt like either they were blindsided or they just did a really poor job of getting the message out there, which can't put it past them either way. So we'll see as more information comes out. This has been the Morning Sports Desk on a Thursday, the 10th of October.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WDenaRadio.com.